much better to be a smaller player in an actual category than the only player in like a very, very niche area. Trying to change consumer culture in a specific society or trying to do something so innovative that no one's ever thought of is just setting yourself up for failure. Whatever your barriers are, finding a way to get around them and to overcome them and to surpass them and ignore the naysayers, like you've got to just carry on, carry on, carry on.
In this edition of Tell Beyond, I'm talking to someone who started out his career as a chartered surveyor and now runs a popcorn business. Sam Feller, you're living the dream. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
What was your family background? Were your parents interested in business?
My parents were business owners, so they were entrepreneurs themselves. My parents went into business together. They were a husband and wife team. At the age of my dad was about 30 when they started together this recruitment business. So they built up basically a recruitment business in specifically in IT.
So actually the concept of family business from a young age was something that was part of your household?
Yeah, I mean, I remember as a kid going into this recruitment business, not really knowing what I was doing. I'm talking, I must have been 10, 11 years old and kind of playing around with the computers and, making a mess of their software and, think it was quite fun, but having no interest at all at that age in business. But I think what it did do is it kind of instilled in me a role model. You could see your parents working together, building something, and I think that was probably quite powerful, had a big, powerful impact on me at that age.
And what were the expectations for you from your parents?
I think my parents were keen that I have a bright future, and in their eyes professional services was a very good option. I don't think that they were so much pushing accountancy. Accountancy was one of a number of great options. Law, they would have been happy if I went into law as well, being a solicitor, for example, or property, and we'll come to that. But I think that they had an expectation or maybe a vision of what kind of job I might do in the future, and they thought that it came from a nice place. They wanted the best for me, but ultimately I had to find my own feet.
But that is quite interesting actually, because it sounds like your parents were actually entrepreneurs, quite dynamic. They'd taken advantage of a market opportunity. Your mother had already sold a business, but somehow they wanted something safer for you.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I think that they also thought I might take to it. I might be well suited to it. I mean, my brother is a case in point in the sense that he did go to, he trained as an accountant. He went to KPMG. He stayed there a few years, and then he, moved on to other things. But he stayed within accountancy, and he is now CFO for a very large public listed company. So, he has worked his way up the corporate ladder in a very traditional professional services corporate kind of way. But as I found out in my life, it's not for everyone.
And having now spent so much time creating and running your own business, would you give any advice to your younger student self in the third year of your degree, looking at the next options, if you could go back?
It's very hard to answer that because you only know what you know at the age that you're at, and therefore you don't know what you don't know. You sort of asked, do you have any regrets? You haven't asked that, but I have reflected on whether I have had any regrets in my life. And I think you are a product of very much of your parents' doing. And I think that because my parents were recommending these kind of career paths to me, at that age, you don't really know any better, and your parents are your role models. They were very much a role model for me. So I kind of thought that what they said they knew best, kind of thing. On reflection, it didn't work out, but I don't think at that age, it wasn't like I really wanted to go and be, I don't know, a ski board instructor or something. I don't know. I didn't have like this mad passion that I had to go and do this thing. I went into a career that my parents recommended for me, and I had to figure it out along the way, I guess.
So there was no sense that could you go back and nudge the younger Sam into something else? There was nothing. He wasn't looking to be nudged into something. You just needed to experience a bunch of stuff.
I don't know. I think at school, I I ended up doing a degree that I really liked the subject at school, geography. I liked other things at school. I loved music. I loved cooking. As you know, I used to cook, and we didn't do cooking at school, but I used to cook all the time with my mum, and I still love cooking and baking. And at one point I thought, oh, I want to go and be a professional chef. No, Sam, you can't go do that, because that was seen as very long hours, don't get paid enough, and not a very nice working environment, and working in a very busy London restaurant, for example. Even though that kind of career would really appeal to me, I'm creative. I like making things. I like physical things. I like, we're talking about tangibility. You make a plate of food, that is so tangible, and it can be, and you can execute well on it. I love all that stuff. But that was very much told to me, that's your hobby. You do that for fun. You don't do that as your profession. I love music. I was grade A saxophone at school, in alto sax. I played in the band. I had private lessons for years. I got really good at it. But again, a creative, tangible thing. But again, that was very much, that has to be your hobby. It can't be a career. I think at that age, you don't necessarily know what's going to be your career and what's actually just for fun, because you know what you like, but does that mean it's a good choice to actually work, 9 to 5, or, your full-time profession in? You don't necessarily know that.
That question of tangibility, tell me about that.
There's something, I did use that word, and there is definitely something that I like about physical things that you can touch, that you can feel, that you can smell, that you can, it actually feels real to me. I think there was something at that age, maybe I just felt like it felt removed. Like if I don't know, if I couldn't experience it directly, maybe I couldn't understand it, or I don't know, maybe there's something in me, definitely. I mean, I've ended up, in consumer products, which is a very tangible product. It's a physical thing, and I really like that about the industry that I've ended up in. I think at that age, 18, 19, when I went into accountancy, I struggled to, I think, understand or resonate with a business that didn't have a tangible thing that I could actually, I don't know, get some energy from, or something like that. Yeah, actually touch, feel, experience.
You did turn your back on accounting.
Yeah.
You shut that door.
I did.
Which door did you open, Sam?
I remember the day. So I actually did it. I think I had this thing when my parents was just quite imposing in my life, and I needed space. I was in this impossible situation where I was like, I don't enjoy what I'm doing. I've got all these reservations about it. The first set of exams I attempted, I didn't pass, and I had to retake them. I passed the second time, but I think that also knocked me, and I was like, clearly this isn't coming naturally to me. I'd been thinking about it for months, and I just thought, you know what? I'm young enough. I can go and do something else with my life. I'm gonna resign. And I'd been moaning about it. It wasn't a surprise. And I resigned when they were on holiday, so I needed that space. I decided to take my life into my own hands. I think it's a coming of age thing as well. And then they came back from holiday, and I remember telling them, and they were a bit shell-shocked, and they were like, okay, well, what's next? I ended up going into property, so I got myself a job as a research assistant at a city-based commercial real estate consultancy, and I got basically some experience working in real estate, with a view to going to do a master's degree in the September for 1 year in real estate, in real estate, and MSc in real estate. So yeah, I got some experience, and then I went and did a degree. Spent this 1 year in training and in very intense education. Came out, I got a 2-1 degree in my master's, and applied for every grad scheme that was going. And basically I didn't get any of the grad schemes because they had cut back on their places, and loads of my contemporaries also on the same course were not getting any jobs. It took me a few months, but I did end up getting a job, but it was just an out-of-town commercial real estate consultancy called Stretton's, who were based in East London. So I ended up getting a job in property management, but they would support me through what's called an APC, so assessment of professional competence. So you have to you do your 1 year degree, and then you do 2 to 3 years of vocational training, and then after that process, you basically sit an oral exam, and some written papers are submitted as well. And after that, if you pass, you become a chartered surveyor. So that's the path that I started. I just didn't get the rotation I wanted. I ended up just specialising in one area. Yeah.
And do you have letters after your name?
I do. I did. I don't.
Are you allowed to use them after
I'm
your name?
not sure I'm allowed to still use them.
What were the letters?
MRICS, so Master of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors, MRICS. So I did get those, but actually to use them, I think I would still have to subscribe to be the member, and I stopped doing that. So.
You put that behind you.
Put that behind me, yeah.
Was it one of those things where this is during your 20s and you were a chartered surveyor, you're doing your chartered surveyor job, but in the evenings and weekends, I don't know, you're reading stuff, watching YouTube videos, or if there's an itch that you're trying, there's some creative thing that's going on in parallel to what you're doing with your actual career? Was it one of those where you're still pursuing something in parallel? What kind of things were you consuming or doing alongside the chartered surveyor that was scratching that other?
So my first business was I set up a club night business in my 20s with my housemate at the time, and we ran weekly club nights for students in London. And basically I ran that business, built it up over probably 4 or 5 years, but it was all part-time. It was like a Thursday night, 9 till 3 a.m. And we would promote this club night. We had a name. What
was it called?
It was called, so it was for members of the LGBT plus community. So it was very much servicing, the gay community. So it was called Queerly Out. And we ran that, we moved venues a couple of times, but basically we ran that for 4 or 5 years, and we ended up extending it to 2 nights as well, was Tuesdays and Thursdays. But it was all for students, gay students, who would go out, get cheap drinks. We would basically promote the night, and we'd basically get the crowd into the bar, and then we'd take the door money because there'd be a door charge, and there was like a percentage of the drinks takings as well. So that was the business, and we'd have a bit of marketing spend and a bit of staff spend and stuff like that. Great business, but very much a business for your 20s, not at my age now.
Were you doing that while you were doing the chartered surveying?
Yeah.
You had a side hustle?
I had a side hustle, yeah, I did it.
Was that quite exhausting to go back into work on a Friday morning? Were you there? Would you have to be there on the floor in the club night?
It's fine to do, yes, and it's fine to do when you're like 23, 24. You can totally
29.
do it. But yeah, when you get into your late 20s, you're like, oh, I wouldn't stay until 3. I mean, we'd get someone else to do the door, and I'd probably stay till midnight, 1 a.m, and then I'd go. And I was single, and it was fun, and it was something
Sounds
to
great.
do, and you could meet people, and it was great.
What did you learn about business from doing that?
I learned about, every business has got like, the core elements of it. So obviously operations, staffing, marketing, advertising, negotiation with the venue, some of the commercial stuff. I mean, just the bare bones, I think, of running a business, and also what it's like to work with another person. I worked with my housemate, so teamwork, I suppose, as well. That was part of it. So
was there ever a sense of, I could make this side hustle into something, or did you know by the end of your 20s you were not going to be in the event promotion business?
I was never going to do it more seriously than like a little side hustle, honestly. I mean, it was not a business that I really could see a future in. It was like a fun kind of side thing, a bit of extra cash to do, but it was never going to be like the main thing.
Did you have a sense by the end of your 20s what the main thing might be?
So by the end of my 20s, yes. So what happened with the club night business is that business, we moved, basically the venue we were at, we had a really good relationship with them. They got shut down and we had to move, and we ended up moving to this other venue, and it just didn't really work. It didn't work out, and the new venue manager, we hadn't built up that relationship, and after a few weeks he turned around and said, it's not working. And I said, no, you're right, it's not working. But by that point, I'd met my husband. I I'd kind of been doing it for a few years. I'd kind of had enough of it anyway. So I was like, do you know what? We had a great run. Like, that's the end, you know, it's enough now. That side hustle finished and I thought, well, I want another side hustle.
I want another side hustle.
I wanted I needed like another outlet for my creativity, I think, like an itch that I had to scratch. And that's when I started looking at a new business. And at the time, also my cousin, who was working in an IT consultancy role, she also wasn't particularly happy with what she was doing, and we came together and we decided to get busy in the kitchen, let's say. Yeah.
You've gone from being in a career to found your own business, but this business that you're cooking up in the kitchen with your cousin is a product business and it's a food business. You love tangible things, you love cooking, no obvious experience in small tangible things you can eat.
Yeah.
Your cousin?
My cousin had no experience either, no experience. What she did have experience of was working in big IT consultancy, and she would be posted to these projects mostly all over Europe and UK, and she was therefore very good at adapting to environments. She was incredibly good at project managing, and good with people. I think you have to be good in people when you're working in teams and you're thrown into new teams, without much notice. But she had no experience in physical product. She had no experience in running a business. She had no experience in, doing what we were about to do now.
I think that might be inspiring for some people who are watching this, that there was a certain amount of risk aversion, that you're not ready to jump ship of your career. Let's go dial back to those first few weeks or months, or probably evenings and weekends with your cousin. What did it feel like to create something from a place of little experience?
I think at the beginning, my cousin and I, we've always been very, very close. We're the same age, we grew up together, and she's almost like a sister to me. We're that close. Our parents also very good friends. They see each other a lot. They live 10 minutes away from us as kids. So we had grown up together. So I very much liked working with her, still do like working with her. And I think we have very complementary skill sets as well, as a professional team working together. Because we had no experience, we very much followed our passion, which was launch for Laura, my cousin's Laura, she's my co-founder. For Laura, it was very much start a brand. She really wanted to start a brand. It was in her DNA. She really wanted, that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to start and grow a brand. It wasn't specifically a popcorn brand, but she really wanted to have a consumer brand. That was her thing. And she's, she's still leading our sales and marketing now, 9 years on. And I've always been very much, more operational, more tangible, more back end, kind of getting things working, pricing, commercials, all that kind of stuff. But I think going into it together, because we were so close and we liked working together and we had complementary skill sets, we kind of leaned on each other, and we learned through each other by making mistakes. Also, the first 6 months, 12 months, we also figured out what we were good at and what we should focus on and how we should split our roles. Because at the beginning, we were doing both of us were doing everything. But then over time, you realise you've got to specialise and you've got to have, you've got to split out the team and you've got to focus on what you're good at.
So in a funny way, you had a competitive advantage. You've already got a proven team co-founder that has family links. You get on with them very well, and that's something for people thinking of starting a business. It can be really helpful. I founded my business on my own, although my husband has helped. It's really been my own baby. But in your case, you went in with somebody who they were a known quantity.
Yeah, I at that age I couldn't have done it on my own. Not this business, and not. I would have given up 100%. I would have given up within a year or two or less. I don't know. I just didn't have the confidence in myself. I didn't have the knowledge of the industry. I didn't have the emotional support, I think, of my parents or anyone. I think
What did your parents think with this kind of cooking in the kitchen idea? Here he goes again.
They didn't think that it was. I think they just hoped that I would do other things in my life. I think that was the thing.
I think most probably parents would, if a son or a daughter in their early 30s is cooking in the kitchen in the weekend when they have a perfectly reasonable job and a roof over their head. Like, that's fairly reasonable.
I think there's that. I also it wasn't just my parents, like the whole family gave us a really hard time. I remember going to like some big family meal that we would have periodically with my cousin's family as well, and we got questions from the brothers and the uncles and the aunts and everyone about, what are you doing, what are your margins, what are this, and like, we've just started, guys, where's the support? Like, and actually I think, overall I think we got a lot of focus on, well, what are the roadblocks going to be to getting you to the destination, rather than loads of excitement, enthusiasm for getting to the destination, and how can we go around those roadblocks. It was almost far too much focus on like, well, look at, what's the percentage
what's
of
your
businesses,
P&L going to be?
What's your P&L going to be? What, what's the percentage of businesses that actually make it? Have you got a manufacturer yet? What's your EBITDA going to be? And you're like, I don't know, I've just started, like, leave me alone,
Tell us about the object you've brought in.
Okay, so I've brought in 2 objects, which is not really the brief, but I thought I couldn't choose between the 2 of them. So, and they're only little objects, they're key rings. And you think, well, why is he bringing in key rings? Well, I used to collect key rings as a kid, okay? So every time we would go somewhere, I would collect key rings, and we would go on holidays, and we would go to heritage sites in the UK, anywhere we'd go, there'd be a gift shop, I'd buy a key ring. And I have hundreds, I want to say thousands of key rings. It might be thousands, it might just be lots of hundreds of key rings. And I had like this whole cork display of these key rings in my bedroom as a kid, with little pins in the cork board and like hanging them up.
Super organised, the operational side, if you get it all nice.
Yeah, exactly. And just displayed them nice. I was really proud of them. And I bought in 2 of my favourite key rings. So the first one is this one, which is Sanibel Island.
That's in Florida, isn't it?
It's in Florida, very good. It's on the west coast of Florida. And we used to go there as kids, and we used to go on holidays there. And we probably went there 5 or 6 times, normally when the weather wasn't very nice in the UK and we'd get some sunshine. But the reason that I bought this one in is that, you think, well, what's holidays got to do with what you're doing now? But actually, for me, part of the excitement of travel is discovering things, discovering places, discovering, products, being adventurous, getting outside your comfort zone. And for me, I think my parents would take us everywhere on holiday, and I'm really grateful to have that childhood where we would travel a lot. And I think that sense of adventure, that sense of finding, I'd love going around like, the shops and the stores in America and seeing what was on the shelf and just discovering maybe a new taste or a new product and stuff like that. In Florida, they've got things like key lime pie and, clam chowder and stuff. And we'd try some of this stuff in restaurants. And I think that sense of discovering products and being adventurous and opening up your mind to, what the world has to offer, very much appeals to me, and it's partly why I ended up doing what I do now, which is popcorn. A lot of what we do in Popcorn Shed is all about flavour innovation, and discoverability is a huge part of our brand promise. We do weird and wacky flavours like pink gin popcorn. Where would you come up with that? It's slightly left field, it's slightly kooky. Well, I think actually the roots are probably from my childhood of going to Sanibel and getting outside of my comfort zone and seeing all this, kind of opening my eyes to all these different products that I wouldn't have necessarily seen in the UK.
What's the other key ring?
The other key ring is one from a scout camp that I attended in 1996.
Does it say it on there?
It says Naylor 96 on there, which was the name of the scout camp, which I would have been 11. And I loved Scouts. So I was a Cub Scout. I went to Cubs and then I went to Scouts, did it for years, and got all my badges and stuff. And what I really loved about Scouts, I loved like the away days and stuff. We'd go and we'd have to pitch a tent, and we'd have to build a campfire, and we'd have to do stuff with other people and go find the dry wood in the forest and to get the fire going and stuff. And building stuff, right? So building stuff and having to be resourceful and things like that. I think this is, that I love that as a scout. And I think now I'm building a business, you can see where I'm going with this. It sort of resonates. It's like, you've got to be resourceful. You've got to pull on your team now to help you in areas where
You've got to find that firewood. You've
got to find the firewood. You've got to build the tent. You've got to pitch the tent. Otherwise, you're not going to sleep tonight. Those kind of things.
So they say in business, sometimes you need a massage, and sometimes you need a sauna. Sometimes you need to talk things through with somebody else and have an exterior person that can listen to all of the things going on in the business, and sometimes you need to reflect on your own and sit in the sauna and just be quiet. What type of entrepreneur are you? Are you more that sit and reflect and think, or do you like to have people to share with and exteriorize all of the blah 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 that's going on in your head and just get it out and be listened to?
I am the second one, so I'm very analytical and I like to debate stuff. I actually went to debating club at school as well. Now I've just said the word. So I do like a little bit of a debate, and I like to put ideas around the room, fly stuff around, come up with stuff. A lot of stuff I suggest, most of it doesn't happen, or most of it is like, no, because of this reason. But occasionally you get an idea that flies, and we go with it. So I very much like the throwing ideas around. Probably. My cousin would probably, if she was sitting here, she'd probably say, enough ideas, enough analysis, let's just get on and do. She's a doer.
Yeah.
But I very much like to analyse and like to throw things around, yeah.
Popcorn Shed has launched a dare game. Tell me about it.
Yes, we have. We've launched a dare game called Pop Luck. So it is 6 different colours of popcorn, but 12 different flavours in the box. So what the idea is that you take the popcorn out, you pour it into a bowl, you spin the spinner, it comes with a spinner, and it lands on a colour. So if it lands, for example, on red, you then pick a kernel from your bowl that is a red kernel, and it will either be a yummy flavour, which in the case of red is a strawberry popcorn, yummy, or it's going to be a red hot Carolina Reaper chili flavour, which you pop in your mouth and you'll know about it because it'll burn your mouth. So yeah, it's like a dare game. So you play it with friends or with your family, and it's something super fun to do. It's kind of a novelty gift. And there's 6 different colours, and you play it until the popcorn's finished.
And then you can refill with more popcorn from Popcorn Shed.
Exactly, yeah. So we took inspiration from other kind of novelty gift products that have, performed relatively well. There's a couple of relatively well-known brands, but we've done it in popcorn. We're the first ones to do a kind of novelty game within the popcorn category.
Did I see there was a seawater flavour?
There's a seawater flavour. The blue one, of course, is going to be seawater.
Is that like North Sea seawater, Florida Ocean seawater?
North Sea seawater.
It's not a good one.
It's not a very good one, no. It's got loads and loads of salt in it.
So for Sam, you're a successful business owner in a cool food brand, which many young people or younger people would really dream of creating something like that. What advice would you give to people starting out where you are now? What would you say would be one key piece of advice that you found helpful in the early days?
I would say market research and coming back to that validation. So on the market research piece, go out there, look at what's on the shelves. You can, for free, you can go online if you're going to have any kind of online presence for your consumer product. You can go on Google and you can see how many people are actually searching for this product every month. How many people on Amazon, for example, which is a massive marketplace, how many people are looking for that product every month. That's the first thing I would say. We obviously go to these food shows and you sort of wander around them and you see things, and ultimately if your product's too niche, it doesn't fit into a category, then you kind of, you're not really starting on the right foot. I mean, I remember being next to a brand who did cricket flour energy bars, okay? If you asked 100 people in the UK, would they be comfortable eating insects or ingredients that are derived from insects? Most people, because we saw people come up to the stand as well, most people, oh no, I don't want that. don't make it hard for yourself. Go into an established category. There's people are already searching for your product, and you can do something that maybe is slightly more innovative. Maybe you've got a different recipe. Maybe your packaging is more innovative. Maybe your flavors are more innovative. Maybe there's something that you've thought about, an angle that doesn't exist, that you can go and own that bit of the market. Much better to be a smaller player in an actual category than the only player in like a very, very niche area. It could be something that maybe you've seen it in Florida, maybe you've seen it in Asia, yeah, wherever. I think Red Bull came from an idea of an energy drink that originated out of Thailand, I believe.
So, yeah.
Matcha, massive trend at the moment, come out of Japan. Okay, wasn't really in the UK 5 years. So get out there, go around the world, look at what's working maybe in other cultures, and seeing what's trending here, and then what's coming up in the next, couple of years. Much better to do that than actually try and reinvent the wheel, because I think it's trying to change consumer culture in a specific society, or trying to do something so innovative that no one's ever thought of, is just setting yourself up for failure.
Is there a saying or a proverb that's carried you through some of the changes that you've made, some of the career changes, some of the entrepreneurial stuff that you've done? Is there something that you come back to?
Not so much a specific phrase or proverb, I don't think, but I think I think in my character, I definitely think that resilience and knowing what the end destination is, I think has been really important and really driving force for me in terms of getting there. I certainly remember in the first 2 or 3 years of Popcorn Shed, and in any consumer products business, to be honest with you, it's a hard journey, particularly if you're not from the food industry, or you've got no experience. It's a fair financial investment, it's a massive time investment. You don't have any foundations there, and you've got to build it all up. And I think therefore belief, resilience, and knowing what the end destination is in terms of where you want to get to, I think that's taken me through these years. And I'm working with my cousin, but over time we've built an incredible team and an incredible product. And I don't think we're at the end destination yet. I've got a vision of where I want to get to in 10 years.
So what is the next chapter then?
Well, the next chapter is obviously, I couldn't possibly tell you, but it's to grow the size of our business, create, further some of our product lines, but then maybe, popcorn, maybe we'll do something else other than popcorn, that's complementary, and we can again build on the foundation that we've got, working within the parameters that I've suggested. So yeah, maybe, we're looking at, well, what does the future look like now in the next 10 years? Obviously, we want to take on more market share of popcorn. We want to grow our business within popcorn. We want to export to new markets. But I think we're also keen to maybe see, if there's another kind of category that we could go conquer as well. So, yeah, I don't have a specific proverb, but yeah, I think resilience and just knowing what your end destination is, and just, whatever your barriers are, finding a way to get around them and to overcome them and to surpass them, and ignore the naysayers. You've got to just carry on.
Be determined.
Yeah.
Sam Feller, thank you so much.
Thank you.